friends and family here this evening, welcome. And thank you. It is my honor and privilege to introduce Hall of Famer Bob Liston this evening. This recognition, Bob, is long overdue and well-deserved. Bob graduated from Adel High School in 1962. That's 61 years ago. He earned a Bachelor of Science degree from Iowa State University in 1966, a master's degree in 1969, where he was on the dean's list. He became a high school counselor and coach for 10 years, and was in the insurance business for 30 years, where he became a master agent. Now here are his high school athletic accomplishments. Football, 5th in the state for passing in Class 2, all-conference quarterback, all-state honorable mention quarterback, defensive back, and backup quarterback on a 1960 undefeated team. There's only been 2 undefeated teams in the history of the school, 1960 and 1933. So you're in short company there, Bob. For basketball, all-state honorable mention, conference champion, team captain, and track. Here's a long list of accomplishments. Counting, first place in the mile, first place in the sprint medley relay, first place in the half mile, in the conference, first place in the 2 mile, first place in the mile run, first place in the half mile and set a conference record, first place in the 2 mile relay, first place in the sprint medley relay. In the district, first in the 2 mile relay, first in the half mile, first in the sprint medley, and second in the 2 mile relay. And at the state meet, first in the sprint medley relay indoor, state champ. Second in the half mile indoor, and second in the mile relay. Bob was a 4-sport letter winner, which demonstrates his athletic diversity. He had 4 letters in track, 3 letters in football, 2 letters in basketball, and 1 letter in baseball. Bob was the Leroy Farrell Athlete of the Year in 1962. That award no longer exists, but it was a very prestigious award from the early 60s up until I believe maybe we moved to the school here in '86. He was a 3-year member of the National Honor Society and was student council president. He married his high school sweetheart and cheerleader, Susie Cherry. They've been married 58 years and have raised 4 adult children. Bob, I reached out to a few classmates and received the following. Bob, from your Roy Rogers shirt you wore in kindergarten to your high school sports uniforms, you always represented the best of our school. Congratulations on your Hall of Fame induction. I'm so proud of my Colfax Township neighbor and 62 classmate. Fondly, Suzanne Zobrist Kelly. Bob, we spent our school years, all of our school years together. We had old cars, but yours was the coolest. Remember our senior year when we were playing basketball against Johnston and you were sick? You played anyway and had one of the best games ever. Always Mr. Competitive, always had a tiger in your tank. Congratulations, your classmate, Ron Myers. And I just have a couple more here. Bob, I only knew you 7 out of 13 years, but it didn't take long to see that your talent, determination, and dedication made you an all-around great sportsman. You are so deserving of this honor. Congratulations on your induction into the ADM Athletic Hall of Fame. That's from Bonnie Reed McElroy, your classmate. And finally, Bob, we spent 13 years in school as best buddies. Your folks were like second parents, as I spent many, many overnighter at your house. Be sure to tell everyone where your athletic powers came from. Congratulations, your longtime friend and classmate, Carrie Pill. So these are very fitting tributes from your friends and classmates. And Bob, I mentioned this honor, it's a long time coming, and I think this will help put it in perspective. Think of today's high school graduates, 2023, and they decide to come to the Hall of Fame induction ceremony. And they're seeing that someone who graduated 61 years ago and was probably born about 1944. Okay, now turn the clock back to 1962. You're a graduating senior. The ADM Alumni Association is holding an athletic Hall of Fame induction ceremony. You decide to come. Today, that graduate, 61 years earlier, would have graduated in 1901 and would have been born in 1883. So, I'm glad you're here. So after I did this calculation, I can't get 1883 out of my mind. Okay, now before I call you up here, I have something to confess. Bob, before I visited you at your home less than 3 weeks ago, we talked and we decided we'd only been in the same place at the same time 3 different times in our entire lives. One was at your father-in-law Oli's funeral, and we didn't talk, but I saw you there. Second was at your mother-in-law's Betty Cherry's funeral, and when they had the open mic, I paid tribute to your mom. You thanked me. And then the other time was an event here. You were here with your kids, and I saw you, and I motioned you, and I said, Bob, you were a hero of mine growing up. And he said, wait a minute. Kids, come back to me. I want you to hear. Literally, these are the only 3 times that we've been together. So over many years, only 3 times. We've never exchanged Christmas cards, letters, emails. We've never been friends on social media. In fact, I would venture to guess that maybe the first time your kids heard my name was when you maybe said that I was going to introduce you. Okay, in 2015, the Des Moines Sunday Register edition, I saw a wedding picture of you and Susie from 1965. You were celebrating your 50th wedding anniversary with a cruise, and I sent you an anniversary card, and I wrote this. Bob and Susie, congratulations on 50 years. I have childhood memories of both of you. Bob, you were an Adel Tiger sports idol of mine, and when I grew up, I wanted to be as good a basketball player as I remember you being. You would just cut through the defense and either pass or shoot. Either way, we scored. And Susie, I remember you as a cheerleader, the games, and especially at homecoming, when during the parade, when us elementary school kids would file out along Court Avenue on the south side of the school, and the football team was on the fire engine, and the cheerleaders were waving at us. I must confess, as an 8-year-old, I had a crush on you, but then, who didn't? Enjoy your family cruise. Once a Tiger was a Tiger. Jim Peters, Adel Class 71. So why were you a sports idol of mine, Bob? And what prompted this personal note? Well, I've never told you this before, but I'm going to tell you now in front of everybody. My first vivid memory of Adel athletics was when my dad took me to an Adel basketball game in the old gym. You know, the one that we grew up in and played. And I was young, maybe 1st or 2nd grade. And that would make me 7 or 8 years old at the time. We sat in the front row right when you come into the doors, probably for a quick getaway in case I was acting up. Anyway, we watched the girls 6-on-6 basketball game. Remember the rules? Half-court game, only 2 dribbles. You had to pass or shoot. The defense couldn't knock the ball out of the offensive player's hand. At some point in the second half, the boys basketball team left the bleachers and headed to the locker room. There was a short guy leading the group, wearing a letter sweater that was full of chevrons, all different colors. Who was it? It was Bob Liston. I didn't know who you were. I didn't know what your name was, but you impressed me as if you were a decorated war hero with all those letters. Well, the girls' game was over, and immediately the boys ran out in single file and started warm-ups right in front of us. Because if you recall, the bench is on the east end of the court, and so when we warmed up, it was on the west end where the entrance was. And when the game started, wow, much faster than the girls' game. Bob, you were so quick and made such an impression on me. 53 years later, my anniversary card that I related to you, that memory when I said you would just cut through the defense like a hot knife through butter. When I got home, my dad and I talked about the game. I asked who the player was. Who the player was. It was always dribbling the ball and either passing or scoring. He said, that was Bob Liston. And I must have gushed over your performance, Bob. Then Dad said to me, son, if you want to be like someone when you grow up, be like Bob Liston. He's an athlete and a scholar. And then I asked, what's a scholar? To which he replied, a scholar is a student who gets A's in all subjects, not just gym class. The gym class reference was a subtle reminder of my report cards today, where I had A's in gym and pretty much average grades on the other ones. So to this day, I remember Dad's words. If you want to be like someone when you grow up, be like Bob Liston. You know how some folks don't want to meet their idols because they might disappoint? In our situation, it couldn't be further from the truth, Bob. The 3 hours we spent together at your place on July 31st was fantastic. I was living a dream, being with an individual who I had always admired from afar. Bob, I have the utmost admiration and respect for you, and it is truly an honor to introduce you, to pay tribute to you, and as Mayor of Adel, fellow alum, now fellow Hall of Famer, welcome you back to your hometown, Adel, Iowa. So please join me to congratulate my friend and hero, Bob Liston.
Well, I don't know who that guy was, but it sounded pretty good. It's nice to be introduced by the executive branch. I want to give my thanks to my buddy Terry Gillen and my cousin Pat for nominating me, to Mayor Jim, to Angie, Barb, Melody, for helping get this thing going. I'm real tickled that it's not a posthumously award. It was great to grow up in a small town. You weren't afraid to go out after dark. Didn't worry about that. In school, we all carried pocket knives. At recess, we would play mumbly peg and stretch. Some of you guys have to ask somebody what mumbly peg was. Never worried about stabbing anybody. That never occurred. In fact, my best buddy Terry and I became blood brothers using those pocket knives in the 6th grade locker room. He said that's how I got my athletic ability. Another thing we didn't see was people walking around with their handgun hanging out of their pants. Mr. Bly made sure that if you didn't have a belt, you went home. That just reminded me, the last time I was on a stage in Adel was at the old gym prior to basketball practice. There was a hot mic up there, and I was singing 16 Candles. Mr. Bly walked around the corner, and that was the end of my singing career. High school was kind of a storybook romance for me with my now wife, Susie, high school quarterback, cheerleader. We've been partners for about 64 years and married for 58. From that, my legacy is my children, which I will quickly mention to you. My son Rod is a outstanding high school athlete, college All-American, retired lieutenant from the El Paso Police Department, currently head of safety and security for a school district in El Paso with 50,000 kids. His twin brother Rob was a flight attendant, flew international, flew all over the world, had an audience with Mother Teresa even. He's in California now. My daughter Holly, all-around athlete in high school. A lot of us kids, my sons and myself, had school records. They're all broken. Holly has the only record that will never be broken. It was in 6-on-6 basketball. So hers will live in infamy, ours are long forgotten. My youngest son, Dusty, one of the most competitive people I know, whether it be in school sports or activities outside of school, rappelling, bicycling, triathlons, shooting, jiu-jitsu. He is also a retired lieutenant from the El Paso Police Department, 13 years on the SWAT team as lead sniper, and he is currently chief of police in Iowa City, Iowa. Sadly, he's a Hawkeye. A lot of things about high school I remember, a lot I've forgotten. Some of them brought back to memory. 9 years ago, Coach Norberg sent me a packet that had pictures, statistics I never knew existed. Now, Coach Norberg coached me in everything except senior basketball, where Connie Githam was a coach, great guy. Otherwise, Stan coached everything. He was kind of our idol. We looked up to him. Whatever Stan said, that was it. As you notice, I even adopted his hairstyle. I knew I liked to run back punts and kickoffs, didn't know that there were statistics about it. It's on my table. The other thing he wrote on the pictures he sent me, he wrote that I had 340 yards, all-purpose yards in one game. I didn't know that, don't even know what game it was. As a high school coach or quarterback, I had to call the plays. We didn't get any help from the sidelines. I do remember one time I was confused. I looked over to the coach and I went like this. He looked back at me and went like that. So I had to figure out something. Coach said, Bobby, listen, if you ever need a little time, ask the referees for a measurement. So there was a case where, I don't know whether I got dinged up or whatever, but I went to the referee and said, could you get a measurement? He looked at me, looked at the sticks, looked back at me and said, I think I can eyeball it from here. It's 3rd and 13. Football was fun until it got to be bad weather. Our last game of the season was played at Dallas Center. It'd been raining all that week, and during the week apparently they had pastured some buffalo on the football field. When the game came about, everything was frozen. I mean, you could get hurt during warm-ups doing your exercises. So I was tickled when football was over, we started basketball. Now you were in a warm place, you didn't have all that gear on, and it was kind of fun. I do remember the band being on the end of the stage, and when we would do warm-ups, I don't think we had anybody that could touch the rim. But when we had on our orange fleece warm-ups, and when the band started playing Hold That Tagger, my God, you were just pumped up. And so we would jump and swat the net when we did our legs, as high as we could get. State indoor track was held in Iowa City in the old field house, dirt track. So toward evening, the lights were dimmer because there was so much dust in the air. One of the things that I need to tell about that, some people know this story, but coming home, we were in Coach Norberg's green and white Oldsmobile. Coming home, we stopped at Grinnell to get a bite to eat. While we're in there was some greaser, drunk, young guy that was just harassing us. We were sitting at the table, being good little boys, we just kept our heads down and didn't say anything. When we went outside, he said something to the coach, and the coach said, that does it. The fight was on. I remember Stan. Somebody said, they've called the cops, so we all run and hop in the car and take it out of there. Like I said, whenever Stan said there was no arguments, I think he was trying to win the conference and the county meet, and he come to me and said, Bob, I want you to run the mile. I never run a mile before in my life. So, but you didn't argue, so I ran the mile, and my first lap, I would always try to sprint to get the lead. The first guy cut in front of me, cut me kind of short. Flash through my head stories that Coach told about when he would run track with his brothers. One of them would be the designated winner, the other were designated to get rid of the competition. They would bump them off the track and get disqualified. And so I thought, I'll just bump this guy. Well, that backfired. I fell down. Everybody hurtled over me, but I'm happy to say I ran the mile twice, retired undefeated, never thought about running it again. Stayed outdoor. We had gone to, we had senior pips back then. We went for a week in Washington, D.C. and New York. Screwing around, not eating right, not sleeping, come back and I qualified for the state outdoor in the half. Coach says, Bobby, I know you're probably not, the training, you're not in shape. You just got to go out and do the best you can. happened to be, he invited my dad to go, only time my dad ever saw me run. So I took off like a bat out of hell, led the first lap, real fast quarter, led clear around, I hear him call my name, you know, on the speaker. And then I got to about the last 100 yards, and that was all I had. I gave all I got. And so from then, I'm finished, but I think it was the draft from people passing. That's the most gassed I have ever been. I made it to the infield, laid down, the longest recovery I've ever had. I think my dad thought I was dying. I thought I was dying. And Coach Nordenberg would say, Bobby, you gotta get up and move around. I would lean up and go back down. So it took a long time for recovery. A couple things, just a little bit of preaching time. One of the things I learned, and Mayor Jim kind of mentioned stuff, as an athlete or whatever you're in a highlight of the school, it's important how you conduct yourself on and off the field. And I think this is so important. This was pointed out to me one time getting on the football bus, and the driver handed me a picture that his 4th grade son had drawn of me. From that time on, I felt like, man, you've got people watching you. You have to live up. I'm not trying to encourage my kids to do the same thing. The other thing, once again, a little preaching, our family guidance has been a statement that I stole from Lou Holtz, the old coach at Notre Dame, modified it a little bit. I make my grandkids carry it in their billfold, some have it on their wall. If you do the right thing, do your best, show others you care, you're going to be okay. Thank you very much.